Hi, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. This is, if you are on YouTube and you're looking down, you can see like a little thing down there you can click on. You can join us in Zoom if you'd like to be part of the conversation. If you're in Zoom and you are part of the attendees and you're looking at all these panelists, these fine panelists, and you're thinking, I'd like to be a panelist. Well, you can. All you have to do is get here early. We open the doors at 6 o'clock. And between 6 and 6:40, we just kind of have an open conversation. It's wide ranging. We can't promise anything, but it's usually a lot of fun. So from 6 to 6:40, we're just basically having general discussion. At 6:40, we release the Discord link. And that is a place where almost 800 of us keep talking. And then also we start our mic checks. When we start mic checks, the panel is closed. That's all the people we're going to have for today. So if you're here before then, you can go ahead, and we just want to make sure that you have good audio, good video, good internet, and you're ready to really be part of this panel. And you're more than welcome to join us. We encourage it. Between 7 and 8, it's general conversation. If you've got a question about media production, virtual training, virtual events, this is a pretty good place to ask those questions. And then from 8 o'clock on, or 8 to 9, we generally have a special guest. So Eliot Fitzroy is in our panel here, and he's going to be in our second hour. So we'll be talking about FiLMiC Pro. And so we'll, wow, your video looks really good today. So it's coming in really sharp on my end anyway. And then tomorrow we'll have, Monday we have, it's kind of a all-purpose day. We do a lot of different things. Tuesday is audio, Wednesday is cameras. Thursday is special guests. This guest, they're all special guests, but on Thursday we have usually musical guests or artists. Peter Hammelman will be joining us from his studio tomorrow to talk about his journey and music and creativity. So that'll be tomorrow. And then Friday and Saturday, we on both days, we cover education. So anyway, so those are our second hours in those on those days. And if you want to share this with other people, you don't use your own link. If you put your own link in, it will go to you. People will enter as you. Yeah, it's awkward. There's been lots of Chris Fenwicks.
It took me a while to figure it out. Sorry.
So anyway, so if you put the link in here, you'll be good to go. All right, Chris, I'm sure we have a couple questions.
Here, let me just forward you this email that Alex sent me. Yeah, if you don't mind, Alex, I'm gonna jump in. Hasmukh, did you have your meeting and how did it go?
Yeah.
It went off quite well. It was organized by the local government, and they rambled on in the introduction, so it cut into my presentation by at least 15 to 20 minutes. So I was really squeezed for time, so I couldn't nicely wrap it up, but I've had fantastic feedback from the attendees, and I think I'm going to organize this on a regular basis and follow Alex's lead and just organize something called creating your virtual persona.
Yeah, great idea.
Great idea.
Okay, and also a real reminder to folks, this is the time to ask questions. Now, if you have questions specifically for Eliot around FiLMiC Pro, put FiLMiC : and we'll save that for the second hour. If you have general questions, this is the time to throw them in. We're a little light right now. So remember, as the attendees, you are the producers. You run the show. So you need to ask questions and vote on those questions to be part of it. By the way, I was an attendee yesterday. It was an interesting experience. It was good. It was good.
Did you find yourself yelling at your monitor a lot?
No.
That's not the right answer.
Yeah, maybe a couple of times. I was like, but no, it was interesting. I watched it a little bit on the desktop, and then I watched it on. I should do this more often, actually. I mean, I got to figure that out because it was good for me to just be on the outside of that process. I was listening to it, so I put it on my phone and was walking around and listening to it, which I thought worked pretty well. I do get the conversation. I have to admit, doing that had me rethink. I really think of latency as a function of the questions, because we're really question driven. But I did realize that there were things I wanted to make chats about that I realized, oh, if there was a really long latency, by the time I chat about it, it's already gone. And because I'm actually interacting with a live, with people who are watching it in real time. If all of us were watching it in YouTube, it wouldn't matter as much. But since a large portion of folks are still watching it in Zoom, that conversation will have moved on. So anyway, it's interesting. Yeah. There's a bunch of things that we'll kind of work on based on.
Always experimenting, aren't you?
I do appreciate, Chris, that you took over. Thank you very much.
No
I'm going to put you and Phil and some other folks on the spot more often.
When I heard your voice on Monday, I was like, you probably need a day off.
It was
so
hard.
let's get to the first question.
Okay.
Martin Reutman from Argentina says, I watched the Final Cut Pro 10 documentary that's called Off the Tracks with Chris and Bill. To be fair, there's a lot of other people in there.
It was all about, actually, I heard it was all about you and Bill. Like it was just all about.
In my mind, it's all about Bill. He says, I've never used it. However, I do use iMovie a lot. Is it like they said there? Is it iMovie Pro? Will I be able to learn how to use it quickly?
Go ahead, Bill.
So that was a slam on it originally. And when I first heard that, I thought, they're missing the point tremendously. Yeah, in a little sort of way it is. But that's because Randy Ubilos, the guy who wrote it, also the guy who wrote originally Premiere by himself, had these new ideas. And when they did a revise of iMovie, he incorporated some of these, I think, seminal ideas about search and find and keywords and things like that. And then the story goes that when Steve Jobs saw it, he went, that's cool. That's going to be the next Final Cut. And they developed that into what became Final Cut 10. Chris is shaking his head. So he thinks.
No, that's actually a little bit inaccurate. When Steve saw it was the, hold on, the film strip view, he said, that's the new iMovie. And I only say that because that's what Randy actually says in the movie. Okay. The key similarity between iMovie and Final Cut is one, it uses AV Foundation instead of QuickTime as the base code to it. Two, it's the film strip. And because of that, it got the slam of being iMovie Pro. Saying that it's iMovie Pro is kind of like saying a Corvette and a Chevy, they're all the same thing. They're not. It's totally, it's a completely different beast, much more advanced. Will you be able to learn it? Yes, but you need to learn the core of how to organize your media. I think I maybe even said it I don't know, I've said it a million times. Final Cut Pro has a learning wall. You need to get over that hump, and once you do, you're going 100 miles an hour. That's my thought. Mr. Lindsay, you have too many mutes between you and
Sorry,
me.
I keep on clearing my throat. So the one of the things that is really useful is training. And it's something that I want to figure out how to do more of here. I mean, I think that Saturday I thought was really successful, having kind of a bit of a brain trust answering people's questions. But I think that systematically going through applications before you start using them we definitely want to just open up applications and make them work. But I think that there is when I got a job at Lucasfilm, I, of course, said on my resume that I knew After Effects and and I had used After Effects. Like I knew how to do basic compositing in After Effects, but because I had used it since it was COSA, but not in a professional manner. I was just like clumping things together. Usually I was rendering things out and I would put them in front of things. And I realized that I was actually going to need to do a lot of After Effects when I got to Lucasfilm. And so the week before Lucasfilm, of course, you apply, you wait for 6 weeks, and then they say, can you come tomorrow? Can you start tomorrow? And so I rushed down to LA and I took a class with Chris and Trish Myers, a 3-day class on After Effects to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And, I was missing a lot. There was like a lot of cool things that After Effects could do that I had no idea. And, Chris and Trish Myers are the best After Effects trainers, in my opinion, in the world. And so anyway, so I took the class. And I got to Lucasfilm, and like the second day, David Dezoritz is trying to figure something out. David was my boss at the time, and he's trying to figure out something in After Effects. And I go, oh no, you just hit Command. I don't remember what it was, but it was like Command Shift C or P or something like that. And I hit it. He looks up and he goes, wow, you really do know After Effects. So I was like, it was a total like I just and I didn't tell him about that for years because that I had learned it pretty much right before I showed up. And I mean, literally drove straight from LA to San Francisco to start the job. And but when Final Cut 10 was released, as I said on Saturday, we just brought Steve Martin and Mark Spencer in for a week and just turned all of our editors on and just like had them understand how it works. But you have to get, the reason I'm talking about this is you just have to, with an app, you have to understand how the app thinks, not how you think it should work. There's so many times where we have this thing where we want to apply the way we do things. And you see this all the time. Like Maya folks want to apply it to Cinema 4D, or Cinema 4D folks want to apply it to Maya, or, Premiere people want to have Final Cut work just like Premiere. And there are, you have to like figure out, okay, well, how does the app want to do this? And how do I organize it so that I can do it? Not how do I make it do something it wasn't built for? It's kind of like, you race car is really cool, but it's not very good at hauling things. And it's not very good at, like it has, and there's a whole, and the trim isn't very good on a truck, so you just have to decide what it's built for and how to use it. Sky, and then Jason.
I love this conversation because it's talking about the tools of the trade that we are using to make a living. And so I see this as Final Cut is a very, 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 very deep tool. They put a lot of insight into it over the 100 years of editing. So can you just do cuts and paste with it? Of course. Right. But I love Chris's comment about how it is a wall and it's a mindset. Thank you.
Go ahead, Jason.
Well, yeah, and to Alex's point, I think, and largely to the app developers' detriment, both Final Cut and Premiere over the years have given you this option of load the keystrokes like they are Final Cut and vice versa. I found that it kind of gets me slightly over the wall, but ultimately does me a disservice because it's really about thinking about the app. It is just not about the muscle memory.
You go to Colin and then Lawrence.
Just to expand on your point about the different types of training out there, you'll find if you look, either task-based training, which is arguably useless, or psychology-based training. That is, what was the programmer thinking when they developed this app? Why did they put this here and that there? And that'll get you a lot further, but you'll find it much more rarely because the task-based training is easy. This is how you create a document in Word in Microsoft Word. Do they hit there, hit here, and do this? And that also makes you go back for more training when you have another task to accomplish. But the psychology-based training, much more useful and much harder to come by across the board. We were doing this back when we were training teachers. This was a BOSIS project 25 years ago, where we were teaching teachers how to use the internet in their classroom. This is back when Blackboard was a bunch of Perl scripts. And the same thing applied. Well, I want to do this. Okay, well, we can talk about doing that. But more importantly, you need to understand these overall concepts, which no one really has time to spend on it. And it's important when you pursue some sort of training to actually spend the time, like Alex is saying, to understand the psychology of the application and what they were thinking when they put the application together.
Lawrence and then Chris.
Yeah, the biggest tip and advice I can give for everybody who's coming from another editor and want to give Final Cut a try is embrace the magnetic timeline. Do not fight it. That will change your life forever. And so that is the first big thing. And the second thing is embracing and learning how to organize, tag media. These are the two killer features that will definitely get you on board.
I say, Chris.
I was going to say super quickly, getting into the mindset. This is a bit what Colin was talking about. Getting into the mindset of the programmer will make it much easier to learn. Almost 30 years ago, I was at the old Apple studio and a piece of gear died. It was just locked up. And it was very clear that somewhere inside there was a Windows-based machine or a PC. And so I was looking at the front panel and I thought, this thing obviously needs to be Control-Alt-Deleted. And the engineer was behind the rack. And I said, do me a favor, pull the power cord or, turn it off. And I looked at the front panel and I was like, if I was going to make a control, an alt, and a delete out of these 12 buttons that were actually on the front of it, I was like, I would pick these two and this one. I said, power it back on.
Right.
And he powered it back on. And it was like, get into the mindset of the designer. And I totally guessed. Boop, boop, boop. Power it back on. And it said, now reloading software. And I said, I think I fixed it.
John, real quick, and then we move on. We're
I'm just going to follow up with Collins. One of the things I miss the most about not teaching in a classroom is for our teacher credentialing program, we were teaching people iMovie, and to watch 30 people use it and see how they use it differently really opened my eyes. It's not only the hardware, how the software works and how you do tasks, but also how different people interact with it.
Well, and you learn something every day. Like I didn't really understand the time ramps until yesterday. Like I kind of understood them. Oh, I can make things faster, make things slower, but I didn't use them that much. I just don't like time ramps that much. But I had to do this training, and I did this training on how to build a kit, and it was 7 minutes long. And I was like, I got to get this down to like 4. Like it's not going to be useful. And I ramped everything. Like so everything. But I'm sitting there, hit Shift B, Shift B, Shift B. Like just like laying on my little keyframes and pulling this in and making it. And it was great. But it is so seamless. But all I did is jump up and watch. I did search, time ramps, Final Cut Pro, skipped through some guy's horribly long, like it was like a 10-minute video on time ramp, and I needed like 30 seconds of it. I was like, okay, I understand. And then I went off and did whatever I kept on having to scroll until I saw the interface because he was talking so much. Anyway, Bill, like 15 seconds.
Yeah, you can do it in less than that. You asked the second part of the question is, can I learn it easily? And the answer is, it's one of the best examples of progressive disclosure. You can use it very simply, very quickly, and then it opens up and becomes very deep after that. Then
the other thing is, you just want to get over the hill with any app. Then you just got to use it a lot. Just use it, use it, use it, use it, use it. When you're not busy, if you're not busy, use it. When you're doing stuff with your kids, use it. The reason I shoot with a Blackmagic, shoot TikToks with a Blackmagic camera and edit it in Final Cut and do LUTs and do everything else is because I'm figuring a bunch of stuff out. And I'm using a Scorpio to record their audio and everything else with it, because I'm figuring stuff out. There's no reason to not, figure it out, use that opportunity to get over some bits and pieces that you don't understand. And then you have more questions to bring to our little get together. All right, go ahead, Chris. Next question.
All right, next question. James Hutchison from Dublin, Ireland or California, says, at the beginning of today's pre-show, I could see Mickey altering his audio hijack audio chain. Could he show his audio hijack screen and explain his chain?
Are you able to do that easily?
Yeah. I actually set it up. One sec. Let me first spotlight. Wait, let me.
I love watching an audio guy deal with a bunch of video signals.
All right. Yeah. So yeah, what I have here. Do you guys see my mouse?
Yep.
All right. So yeah, what I have here at the top here is my chain for streaming out to Mukana. And that's what I fiddle with a lot throughout the show because I listen to some, like, if you guys are in the middle of discussing a lot of things, like I would take out my in-ears and actually listen to the Mukana stream, so that I know what I'm sending out. So here's the source. This is coming from Zoom, and this is just a fader I can use to turn things up and down if I have to. Then I route that through a multiband compressor, which just this is on a fairly quick attack, and this is supposed to just ease out, like if someone's like really sibilant, it'll take care of that. If someone is really really boomy, that will take care of that. And yeah, this is quite fast. And then after that, it's going through just a regular compressor, very light compression on this end. And then after this, another multi-band compressor, and this is more broader strokes, a little slower, a little lighter. And after that, that's going into a limiter, which is on my other screen because I keep an eye on it all the time. And this is what's getting us to a decent level. I have a WLM here that is specifically for the stream, and my aim is to hit -16 on the long term, and also of course the short term, and that's what's going out to this broadcast block that's going out to Shoutcast. And then over here, when I start the stream, I play out music. Victor's album, which he gladly lets us use, very graciously lets us use. That's what I do. That's what I use to ensure that the stream is going out before the show starts. It's just to double check that it is what I'm sending out is getting to Shoutcast, and just these are just several volume faders here, and that's going out to the same L2.
Why do you use two
limiter.
volumes?
This one makes sure that this is just to ensure that even if the music is playing out 100% here, like if I fade that up, it makes sure that this doesn't eat into any of the dialogue in case the meeting has already started or the webinar has already started.
Got it.
So like, yeah, I can keep this at 100% and it won't step over Zoom, because this is pretty low. And this one is just my own fader that goes out to my speakers here. So I can like fade this up and do a quick check. I won't fade it up now because we're gonna get feedback. So yeah, and
That's
then
great.
below here is another one for what do you call this? Zoom, coming from Zoom. And this is our meters, our mic check meters, which I screen scrape throughout the show.
There you go. And I gotta say,
And-
I was listening to it yesterday, and I was like, it sounds really good. Like it's definitely a very good sound coming out of Mukana. So thank you for doing that.
No worries. Yeah, glad it works out.
Yeah. Everybody, we're Mickey for the win. Yeah. All right. Next question.
Our own Phil Langer from New York says, since my ATEM Mini is seen by my computer as a webcam, why is it that apps like webcam settings and manual camera are not able to affect the signal, color, exposure, etc.?
Well, I think that they're expecting to see a UVC control. Go ahead, Jason.
No, your answer is basically perfect. Just because it's using, an what is it called, an MEPG, something like that, the stream coming out like a webcam would, does not mean that it has all of the controls that one would expect. So
it's not doing a handshake that's UVC, and so
Right.
it's sending the video out as a video source. It shows up as a webcam, but it's not. And there's other cameras like the Cisco Precision HD. You plug it in and it doesn't send. It's a webcam, but it doesn't send back any UVC hooks, for webcam settings to grab onto. Yep. Next question. Yep, absolutely. Next question. And by the way, you wouldn't want to do that either, because all it's going to do
we
is
had a discussion yesterday. Actually, I'm feeling like my stuff is a little redder. I've was able to tweak my camera a little bit, but I just do feel like my ATEM is just a tad on the warm side with everything it puts out.
But you can always correct it against, what to do is open up a Zoom window and just look at Zoom. Don't look at it, your
But
screen.
I have to correct each of the sources to do that. I feel like it's actually happening.
You want to do an overall.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would do it with each of the sources. Like I would go through and if are you using the same cameras? Oh, but you're not using.
No.
You're not.
I got to go buy a Blackmagic is what you're saying.
It's a lot. He's
not saying it, but that's what he's saying.
I completely agree with that.
It's a lot easier. When I told you what to do, I was like, oh, I'll just fix all the sources. That's easy to do if you have a Blackmagic camera. It's not as easy to do if you're using something else.
Right.
The interesting question though is and I'd like to quantitatively define it. He feels that the output is warm, not the source is warm. He's saying the output is warm.
Red.
Phil, what I would say is take an image, put it in the media pool, and that could be another
Right there.
thing.
Well,
and see, does that look wrong? Does it taint it coming out?
See, there's the difference.
It's hard to tell because it's not the same.
Wait, I can't see.
That's the clip. That's the clip. That's me live.
So there's a couple of tests.
You have to talk. Hold on.
Clip.
Pretty.
It's identical pretty much.
So here's what I would do if it was.
Yeah.
Do you have a web presenter?
I've got a HyperDeck.
Do you
I
have
don't
a
web presenter, yeah.
no? Do you have another way to digitize, like a cam
Oh, I
link,
see.
or do you have anything else?
Maybe can do that. Yeah, yeah.
So
And then
what
just
I would
compare
I would-
A/B that.
I would A/B between the camera coming out. There's couple tests. One is the camera just going into a different digitizer,
Right.
take a screen capture, and then immediately plug that camera into your switcher, take another
Right.
screen capture, and see what they look like. The other way
Troubleshoot where the effect is. Yeah.
and then I would, if I could, I would run the camera into the switcher, HDMI into the other input,
Mm-hmm.
and have it go into the computer as well as yours, and then be able to
Right.
just jump between the two.
Switch, yeah.
Like I would, because then you'd know whether it was upstream from the
Right.
Because it could be the camera, it could be the whole switcher, including HDMI output, or it could just be the way it's digitizing for you for the USB-C.
Right. Right.
And so you have to kind of figure out, where in that pipeline it's broken.
Right. Right.
Yep.
Got it. I'll do it.
Okay. Divide and conquer. All right.
Thanks.
Next question.
All right. So, and I'm going to ask Mr. Panic. How do I pronounce your first name?
You can say Raziel or Razi.
Raziel. Welcome to Office
Appreciate
Hours. His question is, Raziel's question from Boston is, triggering video clips into a Zoom webinar. Mimo Live seems great, but is there another playlist plus countdown technique that just holds frame 1 as a preview? It's a good question.
Yeah, go ahead, Stuart.
Is he getting his feed from Mimo into Zoom via NDI? If so, I would probably, if I was PC, explanation would be I'd be playing back the video clip in vMix and just coming in the same way, because then the moment I take the video clip, it plays.
And go ahead, Razo.
Mimo does a nice job with the playlist. It's got a little countdown for the end of the queue, and it definitely triggers them as you take. But it seems to be only playing a loop of the video as my preview, which is, hey, the middle of the video looks like this, but what I'm going to take, I don't know exactly what I'm going to get.
It is disconcerting, and that is what it looks like to me.
I know who we could ask, but how to change that behavior? He's not here today.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
I know it's not Mimo Live. I know that and if I understand this question correct, that Wirecast does have the option to hold a video or to dismiss a video or to loop the videos back to the beginning. Maybe Mimo Live has some certain same functionality that would do the same thing.
The behavior once you take, yes, but during the preview phase, when it's in any of the places where it appears various, it's playing the clip to show you what you're going to see in the useful state of please trigger on take and don't loop it forever. Like it's a little strange limitation.
Yep. Stuart.
I forgot to actually make my final point, which was you could also try OBS because it's cross-platform, and that would do the same sort of previewing behavior as what I described in vMix.
All right, next question.
All right, moving forward, A. Mitchells from Washington State, I believe. Is there confirmation of exactly which devices support Zoom 5.2.2? I think we're at 5.2.3 now. It seems that a number of iOS devices and Chromebooks, I think, don't update past Zoom 5.2 or 5.21. Which could definitely affect places like schools. What features don't these devices support? Thanks.
I don't know if I know which ones are which yet. I mean, which ones are supporting 2.2. We definitely have seen it with, meetings or rooms, and they're all in different versions right now. So they're not all 5.2.2, but I don't know if they're all considered the same code base either. So I don't know if the version in rooms, for instance, is the same as the version that we're using. I mean, that if it's the same versioning, that they're all the same. So I'm not sure if they're considered all the same. I don't have a good answer. Go ahead, John. I'll sit in there I'm just meandering around waiting for John to raise his hand.
No, Emily did a nice little chart that talked about the difference whether you're on an iPad, a Chromebook, a PC, or a Mac, and that was a while back. I'm not sure exactly on the new update. There are there are some changes on that. I'll see what I can find out for
There's
tomorrow.
It's I wonder whether the one that just got released, 5.2.3, resolved an issue with webinar panelists. I'm wondering if that's the pinning. Go ahead, Sky.
Just to be clear, A. Mitchells is an awesome participant in this experience, and he is in DC, Washington, DC.
Yep. Next question.
All right, moving forward, Jeff Francis says, hey, so I've been noticing since we started using the Mukana Q&A, many more questions from the panelists. Anyway,
yeah,
explain like I'm 5, as in a good Reddit reference, organizing a YouTube channel, brand account versus personal, sub-channels, playlists, what else?
Go ahead, Jason.
I will simply defer and say that this is in a near constant state of flux. I mean, even now, by the end of September, Stream Now is going away. They have an online editor that I think is terrible, but is getting better in the iterative Google way that, these things do get better. That said, I'm thoroughly not impressed. But no, there is no like I'm 5, because I couldn't explain it to you if you were like 35. It's just always moving.
I will recommend that unless you're doing personal stuff, you just go ahead and build a brand channel. Just build a channel. And the reason for that, for instance, this one's a good example. We're streaming to my personal channel because I started doing it that way. Jeffrey, even though I made him a manager at the highest level I can, he can't start live from my channel. I can absolutely do that inside of brand. So when we move this over to a new YouTube channel, which we will soon, then Jeffrey will have access, and he'll have full access as a manager that he needs to have, which he doesn't have inside of the personal version. So I wouldn't use personal. I don't use sub channels that much. The playlists are important because you can set up a curriculum for people to watch. Not a curriculum, but I want to watch a bunch of stuff, and you can make a bunch of short videos that grow into a large video, but the videos can live on your channel as a short video. So you can make a bunch of 1-minute videos and then stack them up as a playlist, and they just go boom, 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 and you can watch them all. But if someone comes and finds one individually, they can just watch the one that they want to watch and not have to. I would much rather have, you'll notice as soon as I get out of the productions that I'm in right now, there'll suddenly be I have this long list of videos I want to make, and I'm just so busy. I'm saying, stay focused, you got work to do. And but I'm making them all as 1, 2, maybe 3-minute long max, and trying to get into 1 minute, but some of them will be a little longer. But I'd rather break them up and put them into a playlist than I would making a 10-minute video, because I think it's more watchable, or more digestible for folks, and more, you can play with it more. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
So brand channel, simply put, brand channel is expected to be a commercial channel that you're going to be running your business through. So that's why you want to set up a brand channel. Sub channels, what they are it's kind of like stacking your channel so you can get into different areas. They are not as much of a brand as they are your personal extension. So YouTube's expecting you to do your funny little things on those things. This just happened to me today at the house or something like that. Those types of videos. Whereas you're creating content, you want to have it on a created brand channel. The other thing was playlists. That's all about their infrastructure and wanting to keep you on your channel as long as possible. So with a playlist, like for instance, there's an office hours playlist. When this episode of Office Hours is done, it's going to go to the next version. If you're running from the playlist, it's going to go right to the next episode of Office Hours and continue to play that until it's pretty much exhausted. Then it's going to recommend another video to watch, in which you go from there. Let's see, anything else? The playlist, what else? The other thing is, of course, the hashtags, the chapter markers, and the linking to other channels within YouTube. They're trying to make it into a full social network that keeps you in that walled garden. And the more that these people are in the walled garden, it'll point back to you and therefore kind of credit you in the end.
Does that help, Jeff?
It does. I'm thinking for our School of Music, as we're live streaming lots of events and also pre-recorded things, we have different ensembles, we have student recitals, but we also have promotional admissions kind of materials. So it's just trying to organize all that.
The big thing is I would absolutely make a brand. So if you're going to have a bunch of people, because you have to you manage it. And then the second thing is to think about those panes that you have. I always put live at the top. So if someone comes to the web page, they see something live. And we usually recommend if a client gives me management access, I always recommend moving the live one to there, because you just want people to see it, because it has to happen at that moment. But you want to then break those strips up, those channel strips, into the groups so people can really see what's going on in each section. And then playlists are great, because otherwise when they finish your video, they're going to get suggested a whole bunch of other things to go to. And so if you have a playlist, you're pushing those playlists. Like I usually have live, then playlist, then everything else. Because I don't know if I do it on mine, but that's when we talk to brands, that's usually because you want to have people jump on those playlists and spend an hour or 2 hours on your channel rather than bouncing around YouTube, if you can do it, Sky.
I'm just curious about IP, intellectual property, because what Google, of course, has done is created us as their product and selling advertising to the masses. So I guess my curiosity is about intellectual property, Jeff. Because doesn't YouTube own whatever you put on their distribution channel?
YouTube owns it's a sticky wicket right there. No, they do not own what you create. That is yours and yours alone. And with that said, they can also take out if you end up violating from something else. So whatever you create is fine, but there is an overall YouTube owns a part of this, simply because for the fact of if anybody tries to copy,
they own the right to play it.
Off there.
They own the right to play it and distribute it, but you can always take it off of YouTube, and they're not going to, they don't say, and also you can define the copyright of what controls you have as you go into YouTube. You definitely wouldn't, if YouTube owned it all, you definitely wouldn't see the music industry pushing tons of music into it. So it's just a platform for them to make available. Go ahead, Brian.
One other thing that I've done is you can make a strip that is videos about your entity. So for my wife's studio, there have been documentaries done and stuff about her, and they're on other people's YouTube's channel, but I can put that in there. So outside stuff that talks about the same thing, that's another use that a lot of people don't do.
Yep. Next question.
All right, moving. This is kind of a follow-up. Martin Reutman, once again from Argentina. He said that Mickey showed his audio hijack chain. Where did he get the plugins? I can't find the multi-band compressor.
Yeah, the multiband, the compressor, and also the compressor and the limiter that I have in the chain, they're all from Waves. They're all third-party plugins. So the name of the multiband compressor is the Waves C6, although the Waves C4 is also very powerful. It's just I'm used to using the C6. But other good multiband compressors that I like are the one from FabFilter, and also the ones from McDSP. McDSP spelled MCDSP.
Next question.
Isaac Lay from Dayton, Ohio says, my current video chain is a Sony A5100 to ATEM Mini to MacBook Pro over USB-C, but my video is grainy and low quality. Boo. I'm using soft boxes with quality lights and a preview on flip out screen. Looks great. Any tips?
I'm wondering if you have anything applied to the camera as it comes in. So look at make sure you reset your camera settings in the ATEM to make sure that it's not, because some of those settings are talking to the camera, and some of those settings are actually gaining things that are inside of, they're just gaining the video channel. So you can have it actually make adjustments to if it's not calling to the camera, and you may be having some effects applied to it through the ATEM Mini. Go ahead, Jason.
If I remember correctly, Sony has this particular gift that is a rat hole that I run into every now and again, where I can't get clean HDMI out without some sort of tinting. I agree. I'm pretty sure it's something in that chain that's doing it.
No, I don't. Unless anybody else, I think we might be stumped otherwise. I think I would make sure to reset the camera setting inside the ATEM Mini to see if you have any effects applied over top of the video coming in. Go ahead, Stuart.
Is he running the Sony camera in S-Log? Because if you're high enough in S-Log,
Oh,
you
yeah.
will get grain in the image all the time.
Yeah, if it's an S-Log, you can't do that. Unless you're ready for the whole pipeline to be that way. Go ahead, Jeffrey.
Yeah, on the same aspect, because I'm having an action camera that's having this problem. It was in 4K, and I brought it down So I know that's kind of weird to say, but try and step your camera down to a lower quality and see if that helps.
The other thing though, to get back, that's a really good one Stuart had is S-Log. If you brought it in on S-Log and then did any kind of correction in the mini or in the further down, it would absolutely look horrible. You know, so all right, next question.
All right, Steve from Massachusetts says, if you're on a long Zoom call and you need to step away for a few minutes, is there a safe way to unplug, replug the headset mic? Best to lower the gain first? If so, would a hardware mute box be helpful to lower the gain and restore gain level without touching the mix pre?
Go ahead, Jason.
I would say leave it alone. Just take your headset off. There is no reason to be unplugging that.
Well, I don't quite understand why you don't just mute in the software. Like, why don't you just hit mute on Zoom? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. I actually have a hardwired mute button for when I'm doing other things, but I never touch it during office hours because I've gotten into too many of those loops where I muted hardware. It's not muted on the Zoom thing. The thing's up there. No one can hear me. I can't figure out why. It's just too confusing. The one mute that I use is the one on the screen in the lower left-hand corner. I'm just conditioned to that.
Okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I just wonder if maybe he's sending himself back to monitor in his headphones in the mix pre and doesn't want to get the noise of pulling off his headset in his headphones. So just turn your headphones down and stay muted in Zoom.
Yeah,
it's the only reason I can think of.
Right. See if he highlights it a little bit. Anyway, yeah, Courtney and then Stuart real quick, and then we'll move on.
I was just going to say, be careful if you're monitoring out of the computer and you pull your headsets out, because sometimes PC computers will sometimes rearrange that input when you plug them back in and put up a little buried box that asks you what you plugged in and how you want it to be routed. And until you find that buried box and click on it, you'll have no audio.
Go ahead, Stuart, and then Jeffrey, and then Guy, but 15 seconds each. We're going to start moving really fast. We got a lot of questions.
Don't bother muting. Take the headphones off. Literally, don't mess with your signal.
Yeah. Jeffrey, real quick.
I'm guessing you're threading it through your clothing, which is the problem. So an extension cord might be an answer.
Go ahead, Guy.
Yeah, I just go ahead and hit the Zoom mute, and then if I'm going to take it off for a break, just because there's power coming through there, I always mute it before I disconnect my little DPA XLR adapter, because otherwise, yeah, you're popping all that noise through the circuitry, and it's not good for it.
Yeah, Mickey.
Yeah, if that's a concern, that like what Guy mentioned, because like you are running phantom power 48 volts through your adapter, I assume. I wouldn't worry so much, because the mix pre is all solid state, so it should take those pops fairly, it should be fairly stable. That's coming from a guy who had a mix pre just die yesterday. But yeah, if it's an XLR connector, I wouldn't worry at all with plugging and unplugging the mic, even if you're running phantom power. Modern equipment can handle it. Now, if you are plugging into the aux input, which does provide a plug-in power, I might be a little wary about that, just because there is possibility of shorting something there, because it's a mini jack connector, not an XLR, which has like separate pins. But still, it should take it just fine.
All right, next question. We're going to move really fast, so get your hands up early. If I'm kind of make a decision really quickly, and then not go to more people. So go ahead. Next question.
Yeah, we have 10 questions in 14 minutes. Can a Mac Mini be used with an older version of Blackmagic Davinci Resolve? I understand that embedded GPU is not enough for the current version of Resolve.
Go ahead, Stuart.
I have a 2012 Mac Mini server, and that's running Yosemite, simply so I can do the raw. I've tried Resolve, and the oldest version that would actually run on the hardware, and it is horrid.
Yeah.
Do not do it.
Resolve.
Just don't.
Resolve used to be like a $250,000 piece of software that now is free, and and it comes with your camera. It wants power, and so it tends to bring my tends to bring even my newer computers to their knees when I really start doing work on it. So I would recommend not something that old, something relatively modern. Last year or two is really where I'd run Resolve. Go ahead, Chris. Next question.
Gabriel from Malaysia says, I've seen Oliver from Boinks promote Mimo Live as a live switching solution for live events. What potential concerns does the panel have using a software solution for event video production? Would you like to comment, Alex?
I use both. So I use Mimo. We're buying a copy of vMix for something else, and so we use both of them. What I will say is that the typical problems that you have is that it's hard to run a parallel system. So it's hard to run a primary and backup in software because you kind of build everything up, and it's not modular. So if something goes wrong with your computer, you lose the whole show. Whereas for us, if some piece of our system runs badly, we have backups to the backups to the backups, and we can pull that module out and put another one in. So if a playback isn't working, or if other things aren't working, there's lots and lots of modularity in what we do, and we can build very complex systems that are very complex, very hard to reproduce inside of software. The other thing is that you can, it's easy to ask your computer to do more than it actually can do. So you get a piece of software like Mimo Live or vMix or TriCasters, even though they make both the hardware and software, and in the software, you can ask it to do a lot more than the computer is ready to do. And the computer then has low frame rate, crashes, has all kinds of other problems. And so with hardware, it tends to just be able to do what it can do. It can do less, but what it says it can do, it can generally do. Go ahead, Stuart and Jeffrey, real quick.
Yeah, I've gone from using all hardware solutions to just purely software based. And the one thing that keeps popping up is it's not so much about the computer you're running it on or the software package you use, but how well the person using the software knows the inside and outside the system, so that when a problem happens, you can solve it quickly. You really need to have somebody who's good at building the computer before you rely on the software to make sure that the computer will do the job that you want reliably. And then, as Alex has said, you need redundancy.
Jeffrey?
I agree on the modularity. I actually modularize when I use my live streaming. I record out to a different system. I try to stream out through a different system, and that works really well. The other thing is, how does the person use the computer itself? If they've got a ton of stuff running in the background, 50 Chrome tabs open or Firefox tabs open or anything like that, then you have to deal with those things.
Yeah, good. John, real quick.
Sorry about that. So, Alex, have you ever had a Blackmagic switcher die in the middle of a show?
No.
I've used, and I own TriCaster, TC1, and I've used every piece of software. Every one of them has crashed in the middle of a show. That's it.
Yeah. No, I've had panels do funny things in the middle of a show. Panels are the thing that have been the more, like the switcher itself, I've never had a problem with. Panels sending errant commands or losing connection with it has happened maybe 3 times out of a couple thousand events. I've had, once the switcher is up, I've had switchers not come up, not come up before the show. I've had, but our switchers got used pretty hard all over the world. And I have an aux out go bad or something. And usually that's from hard hands, people plugging stuff in. But once they're going, I haven't had any of them ever crash during a show. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I've switched thousands of hours of live broadcast on traditional production switchers. I've played with Mimo Live a lot. I would be very reticent to cut a organized show on something like Mimo. However, I have barely looked into the control panel feature, and I would spend a lot of time in the control panel feature. You can basically set up, like on an iPad or a web browser, a whole controller that runs it. And it looks very powerful. I don't fully understand it, but I would definitely spend a lot of time looking at that.
And for small Zooms, smaller Zoom events that we work on, I use Mimo because it's just really easy. It's on the same computer. It just pumps it out. It works perfectly. So it's not that I don't use it. I just don't use it on larger things. And I don't make it work that hard. Go ahead, Stuart, and then we'll move on. spend a little too much time on
If
this.
I can just speak to what John was saying about the crashing during programs. Yes, I had vMix crash several times during live streams, and it came down to things like not having enough GPU power or having a dodgy SSD. It is pretty easy to do that. That's one of the reasons I'm sitting here with it running, doing this feeds, and it is soak testing, and you need to do that the same as we did
with everything
in broadcast trucks, running the things forever and seeing if what fails.
Yeah, but the whole running out of GPU, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is you can ask your computer to do more than it can, and with hardware, it tends to just know what it can do, and with software, you can overdrive it. Go ahead, Chris. We're gonna go.
It
really
just
fast.
stops giving hardware just stops giving you buttons to push.
Yeah,
Mr.
exactly.
Preto says, I noticed today in version 5.2.3 that Zoom has removed telephone options for webinar. Maybe Mr. Idelson knows the strategy herein. Are they moving to a new provider, perhaps?
He just looks at us. No comment. Yeah, go ahead, John.
Sorry, John.
No, I'm ready for this. I put it in the chat. We, Zoom, have temporarily disabled the telephone option for webinar attendees in Zoom version 5.2.3 and plan to re-enable them in the next few weeks. And then it has, in the meantime, what you can do. It's on the Zoom Help Center.
There you go.
Because we usually have 2 or 3 people on from phone calls, right? And not,
Well, we still have them.
offset.
They're still in there right now. We still have 2 calls in right now. So, next question.
Mr. Gleason says, does anyone use an ultra-wide monitor? What are the advantages? Josh at makesomethingnow.com suggested the LG Elemental P 21:9 FreeSync HDR IPS Alphabet Soup monitor link.
Right. All right, we're going to go really fast. 10 seconds for anybody who raises their hand. Go ahead, Raziel, and then Jason. That's it.
There's no real advantage to wide because they're just shorter, except that my near fields shoot over them really well and they don't block the audio. My experience.
Very good. Go ahead, Jason.
That was a beautiful answer. I've dabbled in them and I'm never impressed. The vertical resolution, of course, is what gives us fidelity, and that's really what matters.
I prefer 2 myself. I like to be able to configure them. Yeah. Next question.
John wants to know your mother's maiden name and the name of your first pet. He also wants to know, Mr. Idelson, what are the viewers and listener counts numbers on Zoom and Mukana?
I have the count is 167 in Zoom, I think, right now, as far as participants go. Mukana has, there are 69 people that are active, 36 that are inactive, and YouTube is 44 watching. So that's kind of and that's pretty nominal for a normal day. So there's the numbers. Next question.
This is an easy one. Gabriel Ng from Malaysia says, is Zoom's gallery limited to 25 per screen, or can it be increased with a pro subscription? There's actually a checkbox. You can get up to 49.
49.
How does 49? Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to go into your settings, and I believe that they are in your general settings. Is it general? No, it's not. It's video.
It's in there.
And in video, down at the very bottom, right before you have the advanced button, display up to 49. And that's what you want to do. Now go ahead, John,
Mark,
real quick.
You have to have a computer that has enough horsepower to do the 49. Not all computers will do that.
Yep. Next question.
Crazy. Mark Baker from the UK says, church live stream setup with stage and band, low cost. Would you recommend anything other than 2 Blackmagic Cinema 4Ks with Panasonic Lumix G35 to 100 f2.8 lenses?
Not from this panel.
I think the only thing I would say is that one of those cameras wants to be a longer lens. So if you're going to have a close up with that, 100 isn't going to get you very far. So, look at 200 or 300 millimeter lens, on the top end there would be my suggestion. Go ahead, Chris, and then Stuart, 15 seconds each.
I made this comment a couple of days ago. A basic basketball game, you can shoot everything using the same logic. You have your game camera, your wide shot, your hero cam, the close up, and your cameras underneath the hoops.
Yep. Stuart, 10 seconds. We got to move them fast.
If you're not sending it out in 4K and it says specifically there low cost, I would go for a camcorder with a HDMI output and a really good zoom, probably Fuji or Panasonic.
I just think that I like shading. So anyway, next question.
Moving forward, Peter Moore from Auckland, New Zealand says, just to follow up on the YouTube channel subscribers and branding. So I have Peter Moore channel, and if I create a new channel under there, let's call CM, that's a sub channel. So if I want to create a branded channel, as discussed, I create a new channel with a new email address. Is that what I do?
Go ahead, Jason, quickly.
The two are completely and totally different, and Jeffrey will be more succinct than I will.
Go, Jeff. 10 seconds.
You can create as many brand channels as you want. You can join as many brand channels as you want, but the regular channels are supposed to be personal channels. So that's best I can say in 10.
Yep. Next question.
Mr. Gooden from Hollywood. Is there a clear cache button or feature in Zoom that may help us to resync our audio and video when we discover we have drifted off by a major amount? That's a good question.
The only way I know to do it is to drop out and come back in. Jason?
Yeah, the answer is no, not in Zoom software, not at all. Not that I know of.
Yeah, I mean, what I've done in the past to fix it is it doesn't happen very often, but to drop out and come back in. Go ahead, Jeff.
Or switch back to your FaceTime camera and unplug and replug your ATEM or whatever you're using.
Yeah. So yeah, you just have to get it to reset what it's doing. And again, one of the things we were talking about a little bit earlier is that we do notice that when we're using the higher quality Zoom, sync issues and frame rate loss appears to be a little higher. When you're getting 1080p, and we were talking about that a little before the show, that we're noticing, and we think it's related to the lower latency, and it's a little more sensitive. You cannot do 1080p on Wi-Fi, in my opinion. Like it's everybody who's going to connect to 1080p needs to have a hardline connection and at least 10 megs up, in my opinion. Next question.
That's a lot of pixels. There's only one more question for this hour, and it's from Hasmukh, and it's really more of a comment. Hasmukh, why don't you just make your comment that you typed up?
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that my webinar was very successful thanks to office hours, the community, the panelists, and the attendees. And if you want, whatever you learn here, you want to execute, just jump into the pool. And if you have a problem, there's an entire community that's going to bail you out. So it's a fantastic experience, really is.
I mean, the one thing that
just a comment. And my second question seemed to have disappeared. I wanted to know how Jeff Francis keeps his eye on the camera for so long. For 2 hours, he's looking at that camera. It's unbelievable.
It's a freeze frame.
There's actually a puppy behind the camera, so it kind of does it itself.
Yeah,
there's the freeze frame right there.
There you go. The I think that there's a real power in. Since I've been a kid, my mom always said that it was better to be obsessed than bored, and so we were never bored. We were always there was like literally no quarter she would give to kids saying they were bored, and so we were constantly working, and so I'm busy all the time. I just am never slowing down. And if things are slow for you right now, my only recommendation is get busy doing these things and get over here and ask questions. Like that you have this huge group of people that can answer questions related to anything you're doing in media, and you want to use us up while we're here. Chris and then Sky, and then we're going to move on.
A perfect example of this, and I'm sorry, Stan, I'm going to kind of throw you under the bus. Stan Chan, who joined us for the first time this morning, he just told me on Discord, he's never touched any audio and video before office hours. Here he is on a fancy old mic, mix pre.
That looks great.
It looks great.
Blackmagic 6K. We're going to work on the color. Welcome, Stan, to the show. And he also said, and by the way, I'm also an introvert, so this has been tough. So
you
welcome,
look
Stan.
great, Stan. You look amazing. That the image coming through is great. I mean, I think once we get it into linear space, it'll be but you're like one setting away.
Yeah.
And the framing looks good. You look great. It's fantastic.
Sorry if I embarrassed you, Stan. Welcome.
No, it's great, Stan. Welcome. I'm glad to have you. You've been asking so many great questions. I was like, when is Stan going to show up? He's got.
I
all
was
these
going to say that
questions.
he's
Like,
been
who
such
is
a
this
great
guy?
contributor already that it's just
Yeah.
wonderful to see you on the panel.
Yeah. So
he just
Alex,
unfriended
you
me
set
on
a
Discord.
pretty
Sorry,
high bar.
It is a high bar, especially with Alex in the room.
We're glad to have you, Stan. Thanks so much for joining. All right, we're going to change. We're going to change subjects now. Let's see. Eliot has been actually in our panel, which is it's unusual. Watching along here now. Now, Eliot Fitzroy are you the one of the founders of FiLMiC?
No, I'm not. I've been with the company for 3 years. I'm just the product manager for FiLMiC Pro.
That's great. And FiLMiC Pro has gone through a lot of updates in the last little bit of time. You guys have been changing, adding a lot of bits and pieces. What is the overall commitment as you kind of work with FiLMiC Pro? What are you trying to achieve?
Well, I think the company's main mission is to democratize media creation, and a smartphone is the obvious way to help budding filmmakers shoot. It's what they already have. And of course, our other commitment is to be responsive to the filmmaking community and take on the feedback. We have a lot of users. So yes, it's constantly trying to see what's the most requested features and trying to implement those to add some.
Where do most of your requests come from? And by the way, if you have questions for Eliot, definitely start posting those questions into our into Mukana. Where do you find, are they hobbyists? Are they professionals? Who's asking for features? And let me back up actually before that. Let's explain to make sure there's 200 people watching. Explain FiLMiC Pro. Let's just back up and make sure that everybody knows what it is.
Sure. So FiLMiC Pro is a smartphone app for iOS and Android. It's designed to be a professional cinema camera in your phone. It's been around for a long time now. I discovered it while I was at film school in about 2012. And as you say, constant updates. We try and hit them fairly regularly. In terms of where this feedback is coming from, we get it from both sides. So we have a lot of high-end productions, especially during the pandemic. But before that, everyone knows about the Sean Baker films and Zack Schneider and Steven Soderbergh shooting features with the app. So we'll get feedback on that level. And then we get just a ton of feedback, much more so from hobbyists and people who are new to filmmaking. And also a lot of people who are traditional filmmakers, but for whatever reason are wanting to shoot on mobile, whether it's just cheaper, lighter, and faster, or they're just after a unique aesthetic.
And just out of curiosity, for our panel, how many people have FiLMiC Pro? Just out of curiosity, yeah. So we're, at least from the panel, the saturation is pretty heavy. I mean, it's kind of the standard in my opinion for if you're shooting on an iPhone, you're gonna, and you need to have control over your camera. This is what most of us use. I don't think that we have anything else that we consider even in the same ballpark. And you've got a bunch of what do you think are the key features? Go ahead, Eliot.
Sure. Well, I can bring it up right now. I'm just mirroring this over AirPlay. So for people who haven't seen FiLMiC Pro, it's designed to be super easy for those who are completely new to filmmaking. We have our signature focus and exposure reticles, so those are split out. Unlike the native app, you can tap any of those to lock them. We provide complete manual control over your white balance, gamma curves, and image controls. And of course, we were the first app to default to 24 frames per second, but we support PAL, all the frame rates. And of course, a key thing is our FiLMiC Extreme bitrate. So on modern iPhones, we'll deliver up to 140 megabits per second at 4K. So those are the basics. We, of course, offer full manual controls as well. So I can reveal the manual arcs here. And we also have responsive analytics. So focus peaking, zebras, false color maps, clipping overlays, etc. So all of the key features that you'd find on any camera are available in FiLMiC Pro there.
And what are the challenges with working directly with the camera? Is it kind of a constantly moving target with Apple as far as figuring out how to keep the camera working, or does it get easier all the time?
No, I mean, Apple's pretty good. They throw a few curveballs, and we're expecting one this month, of course, with iOS 14, which is fun. Android is the really tough market to develop for because there's not one version of Android, and every handset maker likes to put their little unique spin on the camera framework. So
what percentage
really
would you say? Can you
hard
tell
going.
us like roughly the percentage of users that you think are using it on the iPhone versus Android?
Off the top of my head, I couldn't. I mean, it's definitely iOS dominated, but in the past year, we've seen bigger growth on Android. I really think people are intrigued by the handsets, especially from Samsung, etc. So we're seeing really quick growth over the past 12 months on Android. It's personally the platform I'm especially excited about because Google let you turn off digital sharpening, which you can't do on iOS. And Google also let you adjust the tonal curve on the sensor, which iOS does not let you do.
Can you explain that a little bit more? The tonal curve?
Sure. So in terms of if you wanted to apply a log curve to your footage, on iOS, we have to do that computationally. It was quite a technical feat that our CTO came up with to do that. Whereas on Android, you can just change the curve at the sensor level and apply a straight log curve if you want to shoot that way.
So, and so while you're able to shoot, are you really getting log data if you're not able to do it at the sensor?
Technically, no, but you are getting significant dynamic range improvements. On iOS, we can offer up to an additional 2.5 extra stops with our log curve.
I guess because are you processing it uncompressed? So are you processing it as an uncompressed signal?
No, we can't process it as an uncompressed stream.
Right.
But we remap it. And again, on iOS, we have to do it dynamically because we can't adjust it at the sensor level. But this is something our CTO, Chris, who came up with this solution on iOS, is much better person to talk about it because it just goes over my head.
Right.
I was just on board when I did the Xyla chart tests at Film Convert. We have a partnership with and good friends, and they let us take it into their lab and test it on their Xyla chart. So, yeah.
So, and then you also do multicam, right? So
we do, well, almost. This is what we wanted to talk about on the show today, because we've just released an update about 6 or 8 hours ago.
Oh, and TJ Asher asked, when will the multicam shown last year actually be available? So that's our first question.
That's currently available in a free app called Double Take, which you can get on the App Store. I think I have it running up here. If you want to take a look at that, you can see that I'm getting 2 streams simultaneously. And so that's another multicam app. What we found was that the multicam framework is still a work in progress. So whilst we wish we could deliver the full suite of pro features to multicam and FiLMiC Pro now, we want to wait for it to mature a little bit. So we took this multicam and turned it into its own unique app.
It's still fun.
And it's really fun.
Yeah.
And it saves both of those as full res files, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have a couple of modes. One is discrete. So even though I've got a pip view here, if I start recording, it's going to save those as individual files, 1080p. But we also offer a pip mode where it will actually save it as a single file. But if I'm moving this around on screen or taking it full screen, swiping it off, that's all saved into the final single camera recording, which is great for a quick turnaround. And of course, we offer a split screen mode, which will generate a single file.
Right. So that's not in FiLMiC, but that's still your company. Double Take from FiLMiC Incorporated is
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
correct.
we wanted to get that out as quickly as possible, so that's just free on the App Store.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead, Courtney, and then Sky, and then Chris.
So that's going to be incorporated into the next version of FiLMiC. Is that what you're saying? And I have another question too.
When the multicam framework's mature enough, we'll definitely want to bring it into FiLMiC Pro, but we're still holding off on that and seeing what Apple announces.
And I was going to ask, my second question is, will it, it seems to do the front and the back cameras, at least in your other app. Will it be able to handle the multiple sensors that are in the newer Apples and the newer Samsungs that have a wide and a tight and whatever?
Yes. So if this is running on my iPhone SE2, which only has a front and a rear, if this was on an 11 Pro Max, you get access to all lenses: ultra wide, wide, tele, and selfie.
Great. Sky?
Yeah, I'm running it right now. It's absolutely working.
Yep. Sky?
What is the codec that you're using? Is it H.264, 5?
Yeah, H.264.
4. And I assume you can record outside of that because you're obviously feeding an outside signal. Can it split the two signals out through the Thunderbolt or whatever? So that you can record it separately outside the camera on something that could go for hours, because you're going to fill up even a 512 gig pretty quick.
Hold that question for 1 second. We'll talk about that in a second. Go ahead, Chris.
I want to point out that I posted a link in the chat to a video that Mark Spencer and Steve Martin did back in January before the pandemic at iJustine's conference. And they use two cameras using, I like to say double tap, the double take on both cameras, and it's a fun little video that's using all the features.
And you have something new today, right? That has been released.
Yeah, I'm very excited about it because I'm actually talking to you now using an 11 Pro Max running FiLMiC Pro as my webcam. We had a huge number of requests during the pandemic. Suddenly everyone was wanting to go live. Not everyone had 3 X-T4s or 3 Blackmagic 4Ks. So they wanted to integrate their smartphones into the live productions. So we've just added clean HDMI out. So right now I'm on my 11 Pro Max. I have an overhead shot, which is my, my XS Max up there. It's Android as well. So there's a behind the scenes shot with ultra wide on the Samsung Note 10. And what's really cool about this, I'll just switch over here. Of course, you can see the UI. This is just going to Reflector over AirPlay, but it's just under the settings cog, hardware. We have this clean HDMI out option now. So what's really nice about this is, of course, it's designed for use with, an HDMI adapter of your choice, or if you want to turn your iPhone into a webcam, something like the Elgato Camlink 4K is great. But if I switch back here, another nice option is this will work over AirPlay. So if I enable clean HDMI out, it's going to tell me to reconnect my external display. This is just a limitation of the iOS framework. So I'm just going to cancel my mirroring. But when I start this up again, we should have a beautiful, clean, wireless feed here. It's nice and low latency. And of course, any manual adjustments I make transfer across. It will even respect color adjustments. For example, if I want to go into log color space.
So and the good news here is that you have the full interface. You have the whole interface that you have with FiLMiC Pro, except that you have a clean output from the, out of the, what's going out of your camera is clean.
Wow.
Correct. And that will go out over an HDMI cable like here, right. Or wirelessly. So it's a great, great for monitoring on set. If you've got an Apple TV or a Chromecast.
Right. You can just kind of plug that in. Yeah. Go ahead, Hasmukh, and then Chris.
I don't think I like this guy. He just stole my question.
So Hasmukh has been doing a lot with phones, and I knew that Hasmukh would be excited about, and we've been I admit that for the last couple of weeks, people have been saying, well, I just want to, how do I get the HD, how do I get out of my phone? And I just keep on going, yeah, just hold that question. Like, just wait. I can't tell you, but you got to wait. Go ahead, Phil.
And I'm sorry if you answered this already. I can use my wide lens, all the lenses?
Absolutely, you can use all the lenses. I mean, one setup where this is really great is we make a companion app called FiLMiC Remote. I've got it running on my iPad. In terms of a studio setup, I can wirelessly connect. This is just a peer-to-peer network to my 11 Pro Max, which you can see there. There it is. And from remote, for example, I don't have to get up to change anything, but I can also jump straight to my ultra-wide,
Okay, slam dunk.
telly.
Can you color it?
Yeah.
Slam dunk. So, Alex,
my white balance.
Eliot, I have shot literally thousands of software demos in my career. In the early, it was like thousands. You have elevated yourself to the top tier, like in the top couple. This was a great demo. Slam dunk, everything. You held off with the iPad thing at the end there. You win. You take all the toys home with you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Go ahead, we got a bunch of questions lining up around general things, but we'll go through this, talk about this feature first. Go ahead, Sky.
Wow.
I just want to, if this were the Oprah show, Alex, underneath each of our chairs is a...
Then you get FiLMiC Pro and you get FiLMiC Pro. What's the cost of the upgrade for this feature?
This is just part of a free update. I mean, the app's $15 now. I bought it for 99 cents in 2012 when I was at film school. Yeah, so it's just part of a free update, and also included, we added support for the latest DJI Osmo 4 and 3. So
I just saw that.
That was also included. That.
Wait, now what is it? What is how does that integrate?
Yeah, that's a great question. Pretty much what we try and do is you just pair with the gimbal in the app, but we try and give you full control over manual focus, exposure, all from the joystick. So we have a series of modes that can be cycled through, and it's designed so that you don't have to tap a screen while it's in a gimbal, which of course adds shake and wobble. So you get full manual control straight from the joystick, a bunch of shooting modes. Yeah, and it's nice. So we support the Osmo 1 through 4 now.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Which was the other thing.
Courtney and then Hasmukh.
What about the Osmo Pocket? Any plans to support that? Because it's tiny and compact and has a gimbal and a tiny.
But it has its own camera.
That's its own
camera.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there was talk about it early on, us having our manual control experience, but interestingly, after that was released, we had a few excited people early on, but a couple of years later, no one's asking us to do anything there. So I would say there's no real plans for that particular device right now.
I have to admit that I have the Pocket, but I still use the full-size one. Like it was like I carried it all over the world, and I just realized I didn't use it as much as I thought, mostly because of the transfer time. Like when I'm capturing it on my phone, it's on my phone and it's ready, and I found that I didn't use it nearly as much as I thought I would. I was really excited about it. I just didn't end up using it as much. I don't think it's been I thought it was going to take over the world when it came out, and for me, it hasn't. I mean, I just look at my own use case, and I think that I haven't seen it other than the first 3 months. I haven't really seen it in the wild that often. Hasmukh and then Phil.
As you all know, I use a phone above the working top during our cooking webinar, and my daughter is our assistant. Eliot, you have no idea how you've changed her life completely. And I think when I tell her, she's going to be ready to propose to you. So it's awesome. Really is.
Very good. Phil.
Yeah, so now what is this? What is our perfect backpack setup? What used to have a couple of 6Ks shading from an ATEM. Now for $800, I can buy a Pro Max 12 or whatever, a couple of those. and FiLMiC. This is more of a question for Alex. You know, what are we recommending now for a nice little light kit?
I don't look at it as that I would build my whole kit around it. I think what I look at it as is this is a great roaming camera, a great extra camera, great something I can put up in an area. Getting it to look exactly the same as the other ones will be more complicated. It's still not the same as shading cameras from a switcher. It's not going to have, you're not going to have lens options. You're not, the same kind of lens options that you'd have otherwise. Short depth of field. There's a bunch of things that it doesn't give you. I want to be real about what we're talking about, but I have on my desk, I think 3 cameras, that are sitting, right. Three phones that are of different age groups. The last 3 that were released, I think I have sitting on my desk that I use. One of them as a clock, and then the other 2 are actual cameras. And so being able to just throw those into the mix and being able to just use them as an extra camera, a close-up camera, something else like that, I'm definitely going to be experimenting with. Yeah.
So Eliot, a follow-up question from a developer's point of view. What is the theory of possibility that portrait mode might be used in video? Is that possible, do you think, from your point of view?
Is the question, do we support portrait out over HDMI?
Right now, we don't have portrait mode in video at all on an iPhone. But I'm wondering, in general, is that possible? Is that theoretically possible?
It's possible. Some apps have started to implement it. I think there's one called Focus that did a reasonably good job. Samsung added it as a native mode a while back. Currently, you really need like a great depth sensor. So we're sort of like curious
LiDAR?
about what the
If
iPhone
you only
12,
had LiDAR.
Yeah. Yeah. So the iPhone 12 is going to be really interesting. In terms of just a software approach on the current iPhone and Android hardware, it's not quite
That'd be tricky.
where we'd like to see it. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when. And if anyone's going to do it right, I think it's going to be Apple.
Let's go through some of the questions online. Chris Fenwick asks, do you fear being Sherlocked? Are you familiar with the term? Nope.
I rescind my question after seeing the full demo. Apple's not going to touch this.
Yeah. Because, the big thing is, and this is, I often talk about, like, when I think about whether I'm going to develop an app, or something like that. And I haven't done it recently, but I developed a lot of apps a while ago. And the thing I just looked at is, my general rule is Apple will do what 90% of the people do 90% of the time. Like, that is, if you live in that, if you decide you want to develop an app inside of what 90% of their users will do 90% of the time, you will be eventually replaced if you're successcul. They'll be like, oh, that's a really good idea. Let's put that into the OS. If you the place to develop apps is in what do 90% of the people do 10% of the time, or what do 10% of the people do 90% of the time. But if you can figure out something, this little area, and fix something that doesn't exist there. I built a keyer, or we sold a keyer that's called DVMat, and then DVMat Pro, and we knew we were taking advantage of the fact that Final Cut keyer stunk, and we, and after our early surge, we made between $30,000 and $50,000 a month. Based on the fact that the Final Cut keyer stinks, and with, and with no work, like literally it was like it's 128K plugin. And when you ordered it, it would send, email it to you, and then we were done, and we would just show up in our bank, and it was a great thing. But we always knew it was, the reason we put effort into it, but we always knew that eventually this day would end, winter would come, and so when, when the new one came out and there was a good keyer in the new Final Cut, we were like, well, then let's move on to something else. FiLMiC Pro, I think, is a good example of, it's way too complicated for an average user to just open it up to use it for their family pictures. It's just, it pops up. It's for people who really want to get great video out of their phone. That's not going to, and that's not Apple's target. Like, it's too small for them to put engineering resources against, in my opinion. They want to think about, I know we think that these companies have unlimited resources, but they don't. They're allocating teams for specific things, and they have to prioritize. And they're not going to prioritize a niche market of people who, now, a niche market for Apple is still, you know, niche for Apple is $100 million market. They only go $1 billion market is still like, I don't think we can fit into there. So it's a massive market that's there. And I think FiLMiC has fit that really, really well. I'm sorry, I'm talking over you, Eliot, but I just want like I just think that it's a great model that you guys have built. You want to say, go ahead, Eliot.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's more pro video apps coming out all the time. There's a lot of great apps, but I think that's really good for the platform because everyone tries to do better, and competition's a great thing.
Right.
So yeah.
Go ahead, Stephen Kimbrough, real quick.
Yeah, one other thing Apple looks at is cost of support. And the idea is this is a product that takes an enthusiast, not somebody that just wants it to just work. It's over their head.
Yeah. Alistair Jolly in Scotland, I'm not Alistair, anyway, said, can Eliot speak to any plans to combine double take into the main FiLMiC Pro? I think we talked about that a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, I just have to reiterate what we said. We're just waiting for that multicam framework to be more mature, easy to integrate. And then we have all sorts of UX issues to resolve, like how do you apply 2 sets of manual controls to 2 cameras at the same time by one operator. So yeah, we're happy to have that in double take right now. It's a unique experience. You don't shoot the same way. And we're just going to keep our ears out and see what people like about it, what they'd really like to see, and take it from there.
And I think it was a great idea to just have it go out on it like a little scout. You know, like we're just going to give you a specialized app and figure out what people do with it while we continue to build the tank. You have the giant battleship going down, and you have little scouts going down. Like let's figure this out, and then they come back with information. It's good. TJ?
Yeah.
Is that an Apple framework?
It is. It's available for everyone who wants to implement multicam on iOS.
Of course, Hasmukh had asked about optimal setup for FiLMiC as for a webcam, and we already solved that. So,
as a developer, I can tell you though, there's a reason that only FiLMiC really does this. It is really hard.
And then Stuart asks, knowing nothing about the app, does FiLMiC support external monitoring via Wi-Fi? And if so, can it be used as an IP camera?
It does support wireless monitoring right now using the AirPlay methodology that I outlined to begin with. Clean HDMI out will send this feed over AirPlay on Android. You can do it over Chromecast as well. But NDI support is something we'd like to add in the future for a real IP video solution.
Go ahead, Stuart.
I think I would prefer to see RTSP and UDP supported more than NDI, because NDI you're going to want to go to HX and it's not reliable.
Well, thanks for the feedback. We've had a few requests like that over the last month, actually. We'd never had any before, and then suddenly everyone's asking for those. So that's great to hear.
And then Stuart also asked about if FiLMiC does log, can it also do linear for games and effects producers? Which is, yes, I think it naturally works in linear, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And then Martin Reutman, and some of these were asked pretty early on, so we're going to kind of go through them quickly if we already covered it. How do you make a multicam app to don't record one of the cameras? How do you make it so that it doesn't record one of the cameras upside down? Or are you flipping the inputs?
No, I mean, the only reports we get about one of the feeds being recorded upside down is when someone has the orientation lock engaged under Control Center.
All right.
On the selfie camera, we will mirror that just like the native app. So you're not moving against yourself. But if you shoot in discrete in double take, you can flip that any way you want in post, because we just save out 2 independent files.
John Preda was wondering if Eliot is using NDI or has a sample rate mismatch. I'm hearing the same popping. I don't really hear any popping. Are you hearing popping, John? I'm not.
Yeah, the same popping that I hear when Leland uses NDI.
No, but Elliot's not using any NDI there.
I asked really early on.
Elliot, are you is your mix or your ATEM going through a hub before it goes into your computer?
Yeah, I've got my mic going into the F6. The F6 has the line out going straight into the ATEM Mini.
And then the ATEM Mini is going into a hub before it goes into the computer?
No, it's just going straight into USB-C on the computer.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, because there's a little bit of a sync issue we were trying to figure out, and usually we just assume it's the hub. But there's the problem with ATEMs is they sit for too long, and sometimes you lose, they slip out. So it's a long-term thing that happens. Mike Andrews says, has FiLMiC tested or support using an external web camera on the device? I know it's impossible with iOS, and we now can do it with the iOS, but Mike, did you have anything else? That was pretty early on as well. Do you feel like it's answered?
Yeah, I don't think we talked about using an external camera on the phone or Android itself. Like when you have a dual camera view, can I actually have two cameras?
Are you able to send two cameras out from the phone, both cameras, to a switcher?
We haven't actually looked at whether that's something we can do in double take.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you would do that without
I'm
NDI.
not entirely sure.
Well, you can, certainly get the device to recognize a web camera if you're on Android 9 or earlier. But and how the software handles it is another mystery. Who knows?
And then Mickey asked, just got the app. He said the App Store page mentions in-app purchases available. What are the additions that we can get?
Yeah, so there's just one in-app purchase, which is in the lower left, is these two panels here. So it's pretty much the additional gamma curves. You get, of course, your shadows and highlights and mid-tone adjustments, as well as RGB sliders and saturation and vibrance. But yeah, that's been the only in-app purchase in FiLMiC Pro. And we're constantly trying to improve that.
And what's the cost of that in-app?
It is $13.99 US.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
I just love. I'm sorry. I hope it works out for developers, because as someone who grew, like when I started this, I was in Hawk for a long time because I spent $7,500. Oh, I got it on sale for $6,000 for Electric Image. I spent $6,000 on my first Pro Tools. I spent $1,500 on FormZ, which is my 3D modeling app. $1,900 I think on Cosa, After Effects. We were just spending these huge numbers on software, and the fact that we can buy something that does what FiLMiC does for $15, when people say, "Oh, the customer is being damaged by whatever," I'm just kind of like, okay, well, there's a whole market here that didn't exist before. That is it's pretty nifty. Stuart Fairweather says, does FiLMiC support anamorphic D-squeeze for the range of budget for 1.33 clip-on lenses?
Yeah, absolutely. We support 1.33 and 1.55 anamorphic D-squeeze in the app. And the cool thing about it is it's just under hardware. There's our 1.33 times. You can actually get the app to de-squeeze it for you, so you don't have to worry about it in post, or you can just de-squeeze in the preview only and then manually de-squeeze it in your NLE after capture, whatever you prefer.
I think you still have it on HDMI clean feed because we're not seeing the on-screen.
We're not seeing any.
My apologies.
New feature bagged you.
Yeah. 1 second. Let me restart the mirroring. I appreciate you pointing that out. Cool. So you should be able to see that now.
Really well.
Yeah, works really well. So yeah, sorry. What I was trying to show is we have, custom FiLMiC bobblehead there. I was using Big Lebowski ones, but we were worried about getting copyright issues on YouTube for the tutorials. But yeah, so you can have FiLMiC Pro de-squeezes for you in the app, or you can just de-squeeze in the preview only. So looks good, and then do that in post yourself.
It's great.
I'm
And
just going to
Brian?
butt in with mate. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I'm using this sort of little lens on the camera, and this is
Oh,
one that actually
nice.
goes on our phone, and it works really well.
That's great.
Crash cam with anamorphic.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Brian?
We didn't see the UI for the in-app purchases. Can you just show us that again?
Ah,
Oh, sorry.
absolutely. So I'm not sure whose device that is.
Yeah, you're spotlighting me. I think you should be spotlighting him.
Yep. Who's spotlighting? Oh, or is that you, Mickey? Or
That was a mistake on my
There we
part.
go.
okay.
Yeah, so getting back to that in-app purchase, now that we have the UI elements on screen, it's just getting access to the flat and log curves. And we also, you can adjust your shadows, mids, and highlights, as well as we have RGB adjustments that can be made there, noise reduction, and nice saturation slider if you want to shoot with a look baked in. That's all included on the cinematographer kit, which are these two tabs right here.
That's great.
Yeah.
The next question from Courtney said, I only find FiLMiC Remote on the Play Store in Android. Is there a separate app called FiLMiC Pro that is not showing up in Play Store search?
That's possible. This is the wonderful world of Android. It could be that the device does not properly implement the Camera 2 API, and FiLMiC Pro is unavailable on it.
That's great.
So,
Guy said, could we have Eliot share screen advanced content from the second camera so that the attendees can see the HD quality? You want to explain that, Guy?
Yeah, basically, if he just goes to share screen, there'll be 3 tabs, and at the top, just hit advanced, and that way, because the picture's super sharp, and I appreciate it because I can see it in 720p, but the viewers can't see it, so I would love for them to be able to see what we're seeing, which looks fantastic. So if Elliot could just hit share screen and then hit that second tab that says from second camera.
okay, so now it's just sharing from my old crummy Logitech webcam, which I don't think we want.
So hit switch camera. There should be like a, you see it?
oh, yeah.
It's like in there.
There we go.
Wow. So that's a big jump. So what was the old, not very good Logitech camera? Which brand? What?
Is it the 930, whatever the...
We usually consider that a pretty good webcam. So that's
yeah, I mean, it's not bad.
So you're using an iPhone 11.
That's a 920. Because it's got a quarter 20 on the bottom. Yeah, so that's significantly better.
Yeah, it's highly impressive. I mean, what's fascinating is the cam link gives a much better picture quality than the ATEM Mini does, in my experience. But yeah, the quality is fantastic. Something else that's sort of interesting is in terms of the output resolution from FiLMiC Pro, this is all determined by the hardware and the adapter. So Lightning-based devices can only do 1080p out 60, great for the ATEM Mini. Apple's USB-C enabled devices, which right now are iPad Pros, but I'm really hoping that iPhone 12 moves there. They will output at 4K 60, and Samsung, interestingly, will output over HDMI at 4K DCI, 60 FPS.
So, and by the way, people are seeing low frame rate, and it's the reason for that is because of the screen share. You can go ahead and switch back if you want, or turn off screen share. Screen share is you're seeing it's prioritizing resolution over frame rate. So you'll see a lower frame rate in that mode. So don't worry. It's full frame rate. So I just want to get back to what you just said. So if I USB-C from the iPad using FiLMiC will do 4K 60.
Yeah, we'll do 4K 60. We can't override that. It is what it is.
No, that's cool. Go ahead,
It's
Jason.
completely compliant, like straight out through USB-C, like OWC's, what's it called? The travel dock. Absolutely perfect adherence to spec. And yeah, it'll completely out in 4K 60.
And you said, does it only do 4K 60 on the, out of the?
Yes.
Yeah.
That, at this point, that's the limit.
So you can't do 1080p out of your iPad. You have to do, it's always going to be 4K 60. So you have to convert it. You have to knock it down.
That's right.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, but I don't know, like when I hook up my iPad, the only thing I'm confused by there is if I hook up my iPad to my, anyway, we'll go back to that. I for some reason, maybe I was using a different iPad. So that's it. Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
Were you going to mention the aspect ratio, Alex?
No, I was trying to think about how I had I realized I was hooking my iPad up to do markup, but I realized it was hooked up to a 4K switcher. So I didn't try it with a, go ahead, Chris.
And the other thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to reiterate the sync issue that we're seeing is a Zoom buffering and not the camera coming from Eliot. Is that correct? Because he was in sync at the beginning of the,
yeah, it's
2 hours ago.
I don't think it's a Zoom thing. It's the ATEM USB-C thing that we usually, yeah. So folks know when Eliot came in at 6 a.m., his sync was perfect. There's a thing with, it's not this whole iPhone thing. There's an issue with the ATEM going through USB-C, and usually what we've nailed it to, we thought, was when it goes through a hub. That's why I asked earlier, is it going through a hub to get to the computer? What we've noticed is that when USB-C goes through anything other than the USB port of the laptop, it will the sync will slowly drift over time, and so Victor and a couple other folks have been on the front end of that research, and we thought we had figured it out, and evidently we have not. Go ahead, Victor, and then TJ. But it's something with the ATEM's. It's something with the ATEM's output through USB-C. If you go through CamLink or whatever, it's fine. Like, so if you took the HDMI out of your thing and pushed it in, and then pushed it into your computer, it'd be fine the whole time. There's some issue with the ATEM, and we haven't figured it out. Go ahead, Victor.
Just an FYI from my Facebook group, I don't have any verification for Blackmagic, but I hear that they have admitted to this issue, are working on it, and it's supposed to be resolved in an update. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, TJ?
I'm just wondering who besides Jason and me have installed the update while Eliot was here. We've been playing with it. I see Jason's playing with it.
It's so cool.
I hit download. Yeah. So we're very excited. There'll be tweets soon, right at the end of this. I've been in embargo for a long time. It's been very hard. It's been very hard for me to not talk about it. Victor?
Are you guys putting out any videos on YouTube about these new features and how to use them and everything for folks?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a tutorial up as of about 6 hours ago on the FiLMiC Pro channel for both the clean HDMI support and a separate one on the Osmo Mobile integration. So yeah, check those out for more info.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a fantastic upgrade. That's why when Eliot and I talked about it earlier and he showed it, I was just like, okay, we have to get you on. And then this was, I don't know, maybe a month ago or 6 weeks ago. It's been painful. It's been a painful 4 to 6 weeks of dealing with this. Go ahead, Jason.
I also, something else that's worth mentioning that I believe has been much longer in the pipeline than this update, or meaning it's been available for longer, is that the live scopes are really fast. They're really responsive, and that's pretty cool.
That's great. James Babbitt asks, hi, Eliot, what's small screen next to your ATEM Mini Pro, and how are you using it? What's the small screen?
So that small screen is just an Atomos Ninja 5 that I'm using as my monitor, so I can make sure everything's framed nicely. Yeah, so that's just a Ninja 5 that is running the HDMI out of the ATEM Mini.
That's great. And Guy Blank asks, have you considered SRT in the future?
We have considered it. We have a jam-packed roadmap at the moment, though, with some really cool stuff coming in the not too distant future. So that won't be making an appearance in the short term, I don't think. But yeah, we definitely get requests. and would love to pursue that further.
What markets, I guess during COVID, have you seen the interest in your app increase or decrease or change at all?
Yeah, it went through the roof for the first 2 or 3 months. Yeah, it was fascinating to see. Definitely not something I was expecting. When things started going wrong, I was curious as to how many people would be purchasing the app and shooting with it. But yeah, it just took off. And not just amongst amateurs, suddenly all the big production studios in Hollywood are not on set. They were getting iPhones and sending them to cast members and working with them remotely to try and complete their shows. So you would have seen Mythic Quest and a lot of those big shows started doing episodes shot with FiLMiC Pro.
Is there any way, probably not right now, but is there any way to control the phone over the internet?
Yes, we have a rather convoluted method where we actually recommend that you use a second device running FiLMiC Remote. It can be an iPhone or an iPad. And then we have a lot of crews that share this screen via TeamViewer screen sharing back to the director wherever they might be.
Right.
Yes. So
and how are they negotiating that connection?
They
is it over IP?
Yeah, it will be over just Wi-Fi. Another popular thing that people will use is to just take FiLMiC Pro, mirror the display over AirPlay to a Mac, and then they'll hook it up with a Slack or a Zoom call. And then they'll be speaking through the laptop and transmitting the live feed from the phone.
Well, my thing is that my interest is how do I control could I control the camera? Like, let's say they were on VPN. Could I connect a iPad to the phone on the other end?
No, I mean, it's tricky. Bonjour services over VPN is tough. We've had some crews that have successfully done it, but the lag is a little bit too much. So right now we're working on a solution to that problem and seeing some very promising results that we hope might be more widely available in the not too distant future.
That's great. Because I mean, that for us, that's a big deal is sending cameras down that I can remotely, have full control over is a big deal. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Chris Fenwick.
Eliot, are you familiar with the service? We mentioned it earlier in the show.
I was going to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm familiar. I applied to check it out, but as soon as I got the email back saying set up a call with like one of our account supervisors, that's when I knew I couldn't afford it. So I haven't actually.
No, it's super expensive, but that's not the point. My question is, I'm very interested that you know that it exists and that you know what it does, because I think you can do it better. So I would like to encourage you to set up the account. You don't have to pay for it, but get the full demo so you understand what they can do, because it's a great service, but you could do it better.
It's what we aim to do.
Yeah. So
I mean, really, for the two ninja things that I mean, OpenReel can do a lot of cool things, and it does teleprompters and all that other stuff you don't need to do. For me, if I could, if I knew that I could record locally on that phone, and I could hear, I could talk to you and you could hear me through the earpiece, and I could see your video feed back to me, like very simple little things, and it didn't cost $5,000 a month. It would, like if it was $50 or a service of $50 a month, like that would be easy.
I'd pay
$5,000
$500 for that app.
I pay $500 for the app. Absolutely. I'd easily pay $50 or $100 a month for it. 5,000 has me go, gets me back to the Jeff Bezos, your margin is my opportunity. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there to do some of those things, unless there's some kind of patents that hold it up. Go ahead,
what
Chris.
you do is you have a catcher app. So as a production company, I buy the catcher app. I'll spend a lot of money for it, but the transmitter is free-ish. Maybe it's a couple bucks. And so you just call your client, say, here, go download this thing, and then I can set up the catch. That's how you do it. And then for me, you can charge me a ton of money. I'll pay a lot of money for it.
Go ahead, Stuart.
From multi-camera live streaming and broadcast points of view, something like FiLMiC Pro where it could be controlled from the studio or controlled from the live streaming computer would be fantastic, especially with two-way audio. That's one of the big things that's a pain in the proverbial, where you can't talk back to the camera operator. They can't put their headphones on while they're holding the phone and filming something and get instructions from a director. And I'm about to get attacked by a cat. So it would be absolutely fabulous if something like FiLMiC Pro would support that sort of two-way communication and the shading control from the streamer or from whoever's running the multicam setup.
And Elliot's like, I've never heard this before. He just smiles and shakes. Go ahead.
No, I really do appreciate the feedback, and we've got to get some of you on as advisors once we get further down this road.
Who wants to be an advisor for
Yeah, you will have no
that.
shortness of volunteers in this room.
Yeah.
No, literally, Elliot, drop in any morning at 6 o'clock and just, we'll give you all the input you don't want.
Yeah, no.
We'll
can't
do,
get
we'll
enough
do it
input.
not on YouTube. We'll do it privately.
Yeah.
Before we go,
that sounds good. John Gerard asks, can I use my iPad to control my Pixel 4 XL? Will they talk to each other?
Yeah, right now our remote solutions are not cross-platform compatible. It's iOS to iOS, Android to Android. However, again, that's high up on our list of things to rectify in the not too distant future, because obviously that's what makes a lot of sense to people. So not now, but hopefully not too far off.
Jo said, hi, can I record stereo audio with iPhone in FiLMiC Pro? I have tried the several audio options on the app, but all seem to be mono. Thank you.
Yeah, that's correct. So the stereo API was made available in iOS 14. Apple used it in their native app in iOS 13, as they typically do, to obviously get it right and perfect it before they make it more widely available. So yes, our audio team's very excited to look at implementing that, but we're going to wait till iOS 14 is out, of course. So yeah, that's not in the app right now, but any app developer can tap into that API with iOS 14 now, which is very cool.
Bill?
For the last couple of years, FiLMic's been my go-to if I want to do double system audio into an iPhone. Its audio capabilities, particularly the ability to Bluetooth with AirPods, has been an absolute change app for me, and I love it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, Bill.
Yeah, Victor?
I don't know if it's been said already, but the remote app is absolutely gold. I mean, if you're going to use FiLMiC, as you're using it now, the remote app is a must-have, and it just works so well.
Elliot, show it.
Yeah, we have some
there
nice
are the
views.
scopes.
Director's viewfinder, there's the scopes there. You can see those update pretty nicely. And yeah.
That's amazing.
And the nice thing is, of course, you can switch between devices from remote as well. So I can jump into my overhead camera above. It will take a few seconds. You'll get the infinity effect, but yeah, it's easy to switch between as many cameras as you have in your studio and make adjustments from remote.
And that pairing happens pretty automatically?
Yeah, so right now I'm not even connected to the same Wi-Fi network. This is just peer-to-peer, so they're not connected to a network.
It
that
really
works
is
great up to
true
about 10
pure
meters.
AirPlay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dale Nabetta asks, can you use AirPlay and HDMI out on FiLMiC at the same time?
Yes. Absolutely. By default, you connect to AirPlay, it will show the UI elements like I have right here. But as soon as you enable clean HDMI out and reestablish that AirPlay connection to an Apple TV, or I'm using Reflector on my Mac, then yeah, you just get the clean feed.
Jason and then Sky.
I've just in summary, we're generally a pretty tough crowd, but I think you have the record for like nicest things that ever have been said, like for an hour, because we really like what you do.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, Sky.
What level of what age of laptop or iPad is that? Because I've got an old one. I didn't know if it'd work on something.
Yeah, so this is the most recent one, but it will work on any device that can run iOS. I think we support 11, but pretty much if it supports iOS 13, you're golden. Yeah.
And then, yeah, and the last question was a little bit more of the inside baseball. Larry Jacobson said, what did Eliot do to get back to sync a few minutes ago? That was when he switched the inputs to the webcam and then back. It reset the connection. We didn't know that. We didn't know that until you did it. so
there we go.
Now we know the quick fix.
Glad I could help.
Go to your web. Go to webcam and then come back and it'll be fixed. But that was a new learning that we had that I quietly noticed just when you did that. And then we have Chris Fenwick wants to know, you want to ask the question, Chris, as our last question?
Can you send us all hats? We want hats. I need a hat. I need a FiLMiC hat.
Yeah. We'll get those
Are
in
they
the
on
mail.
the store? Are they in the store? Can we buy our FiLMiC hats or you have to know
Not yet. I mean, this is a one-off, just a test run. So I'm the only person with this hat, but for the right price, I'll send it to the highest bidder.
His wife is back.
It'll be underneath everybody's chair.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Hey, Eliot, thank you so much for middle of the night in New Zealand, coming and hanging out with us. I hope it was worth it for you. We just had a great time.
Absolute pleasure. No, thanks so much for having me on. It's great to be on the show and chat with you guys. I've loved watching it. So keep up the great work.
Great job.
I would love to say come on all the time, but I know it's, what is it now, 2 or 3 in the morning and something?
Yeah, it's 4 a.m.
Oh, 4
Give us the numbers of how many downloads happened in the last hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, super Eliot, thank you so much for coming in the middle of the night and hanging out with us. We're super excited about it. It's such a great application, and I've been excited to talk about this. I mean, people can attest to. I just keep on going. Just wait. You gotta know. So I'm super excited about it, and can't wait to see more. I know that more is probably coming out later soon enough.
Yeah. Later this year. That's the plan.
Yeah, exactly. So we're excited to see that. Thank you again. And we'll, I'm sure when new things come out, maybe we'll do this again.
Yeah, that would be great. All right.
Okay, great.
Thanks so much.
Just keep us in the warning. All right. Thank you. And for everybody else, thank you so much for attending. The attendees asked great questions. Well done. The panelists had great comments and input. So well done. And I really appreciate it. We remember that tomorrow we've got Peter Himmelman. He's a great musician. There you go. Perfect. Peter Himmelman is going to be here tomorrow, talking about creativity. He's going to play some music for us in the new Zoom high quality mode. So it'll be, I think, the first time we've tried that. So Peter Himmelman will be here. And then Friday is education. Saturday is education. We don't have anything else scheduled for Saturday right now. Maybe we'll surprise you with something. Anyway, so we'll talk about that. Anyway, have a great day, and we'll see most of you tomorrow. Bye-bye.